So our second race in the afternoon slate is on the course. In lane 1, we'll have Oklahoma City. In lane 2 is Temple. Lane 3, Brock. In lane 4, George Mason. Lane 5 is Colgate. And in lane 6 is High Point University.
Yeah, I'm looking to see how this race shapes up between the rower from Brock, GMU, and Temple. They had sort of the closest times yesterday. Looking in those semifinals, the GMU Temple semifinal was a little bit faster than the Brock semifinal, so maybe not pushed as much, but here we can see sort of the race unfolding, and it looks as though still there's a lot of athletes here that could still win this race. Yeah,
these were really competitive semifinals yesterday. If you look at some of the results, George Mason 7:33, Temple 7:36, and then High Point 7:38, all in the same race yesterday. And then in the other semifinal, we had Brock at 7:37 and Colgate 7:41. Oklahoma City slightly behind them, but at the moment looking like they're putting up a really nice fight out of lane 1.
Yeah, and here we go, sort of that roar from George Mason over in lane 4, holding off the rest of the crowd. But you know, this is anyone's game still. I think we have out in lane 6, we have the roar from High Point that still can make a show here. But you know, it may be possible for this rower from George Mason to put his stamp on this race and try to push out over the athletes.
Yeah, so George Mason looking confident here, about 600 meters down in this race, the second 500 underway. We saw this a little bit with the George Mason rower yesterday. He kind of got out to a pretty good lead over the Temple rower, who attempted to reel him back in, but in the end just didn't have quite enough to get there. So we'll see if the George Mason rower sticks to a similar game plan, once again leading from the front.
Yeah, and I think that this is an interesting, you know, I'm interested in seeing what this athlete from High Point can do. Like, can he continue to just be close enough so that he can make a move, sort of try to find a crack in the rower from George Mason?
Yeah, so we have dual views here. We have our around 1,000 meter camera and our drone camera to give you a full shot. So you see there, George Mason looks like he's pretty much out in front, but the drone tells a different story, that these boats are still within striking distance at the moment. And there you see them begin to cross. And, you know, if George Mason continues to run away with the gold, the fight for silver and bronze is still really tight in this Lou McCormick Trophy men's open collegiate single.
Yeah, and, you know, this is one of the things about the finals of the Jefferson Vail Regatta is that you have these athletes that have competed all year, and now for some this may be their last race. They are here in this final with an opportunity to walk away with hardware. And so you see, can this rower from George Mason hang on to this lead or extend it to an amount where there's just not enough course left to come back in this race?
Yeah, so at the moment it looks like Oklahoma City, Temple, and Brock, along with High Point there, out in lane 6, vying for a second place. And it does look as though the trailing group here has started to pull back on George Mason a little bit. He might be letting the race come to him in this third 500 now. As you see, there are some raindrops out there on the course. Nothing too bad, but you see there some drizzle coming down as we approach 750 meters left to go.
Yeah, and as a single sculler, this is an important part of the race, right? You're out, you have a lead, you know. Do you try to conserve just a little bit? Do you let, you know, the field come to you just a little bit, hold a little bit in the tank so that you can really just hammer it down in that last 500? Or do you just extend it, keep extending, and depend on your fitness and your training, knowing and being confident that you're going to win this race?
You have a really beautiful shot here of the Cooper River course. You see the Camden County Boathouse sitting pretty there, right around the 1,000 meter mark, and then off in the distance, the city of Philadelphia shining over our broadcast today here at the 84th Jefferson Vail Regatta.
Yeah, and I think the rower from Brock is trying to reel him in just a little bit, reel in the rower from George Mason, but it looks like the rower from George Mason is still holding on. But that second place position is starting to form up now, and it looks like the rower from Brock is saying, if I'm not going to get gold, then I'm going to get silver.
And you know what? I mean, George Mason has a really nice chance to be able to respond, but Brock is still making a move onto him. He is definitely separated from Temple and Oklahoma City. Really impressive race from Oklahoma City, who had a tough event yesterday in their semifinal, finishing third, a bit off the pace of some of the other boats in this event, but a really strong race so far, looking to get onto that podium here as Brock and George Mason begin to pull away from Temple and Oklahoma City.
Yeah, and it looks like that Oklahoma City rower is like, I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to take a chance that, I'm not going to be on the podium. And the question is, can the rower from Temple respond? Rowing a little bit over closer to the buoys than I would like to be. There's a chance that you can smack a buoy when you're rowing that close. And so he's got to adjust his point in a way that's going to allow him to stay straight.
Yeah, and there goes the rower from Brock, really raising the rate there. He's going to give it everything he can here in the final 300 meters. We're going to get a change of our shot here to our finish line camera in just a moment, and it will show us exactly how this breaks down. George Mason with that lead still. The Brock rower going to do everything he can to take that gold. A really tight race here in the Lou McCormick Trophy.
And the question is, has he left it for too late? Has that rower from Brock let that rower from George Mason get out too far? It looks like the rower from George Mason is responding, but the rower from Brock is still moving, still applying that pressure.
Yeah, he looks really, really strong at the moment. Does he have anything left in the tank? And did the rower from George Mason wait long enough to let him empty it before he himself decided to take his move? It's a close race. It does look like George Mason is still out in front here and will have enough left to hold off this surge from Brock.
But that surge is still coming. He's still moving. He's not giving up. This is it, those final strokes. Can he do it? He's moving up. With each stroke, he's taking a little bit more. And there you hate to see it. Just ran out of course there. But that was an amazing finish there. And it looks like out in lane 1 will take the third, Oklahoma City. You can see the rower from Temple leaning back. What a race. And then in lane 6 and lane 5, we have High Point and Colgate wrapping up that event.